Another question. There was one on the... yes.
I want to thank you really for all the years of enjoyment that you've given me and the children as well. We adore all the films. But I wanted to ask you, how different were the episodes 1, 2 and 3 to film versus 4, 5 and 6? Different crew, probably different cast?
Very, very different crew, certainly different cast, because remember that I was meeting people. Well, I will tell you that both Ewan McGregor and Sam Jackson came up to me separately and said, I can't believe that I'm working with 3PO. I mean, look at this. Because they had watched, certainly Ewan McGregor, had watched 3PO. You know, Ewan isn't very old, and he pretty much watched me the whole time. So they kept kind of gurgling with pleasure. And there's me thinking, I'm working with Sam Jackson. So there was a lot of mutual admiration going on. The sadness for me was, well, sadness. I mean, why not have blue screen? You know, it's cheaper. But remember, in the first movie, I think it was on stage 5, I arrived one day, my dressing room was actually sort of up there, and I came down, and all of this was the Death Star, actually taller than this, and the whole building was fantastic, just, I mean, you were living a dream. And now you walk in, the floor is different, but the walls are either blue or green. And of course, in the last movie, whatever that was called, there was one shot where I had to just walk along with R2 towards the camera. So I rehearsed pretty much like this. Oh, without the head on, that's right. So I'm walking along. Now when I look, I've got tunnel vision. So I can only look at R2. I can't look sideways, I can't do that. So I'm walking along talking, and the rehearsal was fine. Then I come back here, we turn around, put on, Don Bees puts on the mask and everything. I turn around, and now they say action, and I go, that couldn't possibly be correct, I'm sure you exaggerate. And suddenly my whole world turned into a giant bowl of Rice Krispies, into which I was now falling head first, this strange noise, and I crashed to the floor. Because what they had done, as I'd walked towards the camera the first time, they looked at the shiny gold suit and thought that's too much green screen being reflected for the computer operators to, why don't we put some black polythene boards, polyboards, at an angle from the camera lens down to the floor, and that'll help take some of the green out. They hadn't told me. I walked straight into the polyboards and went smash. And of course they ran straight away and went shoo. But it was okay, the costume wasn't damaged at all. And that actually puts 3PO in a way in context, because he is a machine. And when you play a machine, people sort of forget you're in there sometimes. And I'm kidding, actually. The costume was a little scratched. So that was the big difference. And of course, knowing that you had quite a thing to follow up to make it a success, which it is. And of course, the big debate about Jar Jar Binks, that anybody under the age of 10 thinks he's adorable. Me, I'm 62. There was a question over here, yes. Actually, come over here, because the microphone might not like those speakers. So here we are, coming up. What is your question?
Which actor did get on with the best?
Probably, which actor did I get on with best? When we first started, Mark Hamill and I were pretty much the only ones in the desert, and we would drive to work together all the time and go through each other's lines in the car and all that kind of thing. And I remember one day I said, you know, are you really going to say that line? It's so dumb. You know, it's embarrassing. And he said, yeah, well, you know, you got some pretty ridiculous lines. And I said, yes, but I'm wearing a mask. None of my friends know I'm in this movie. Because, you know, I think Mark Hamill had the toughest job because he didn't have a wacky costume. He was just playing a blonde hero. And that could get a bit tired. You know, people, yeah, we've done heroes. Let's look at the really weird people in this movie, the Darth Vader, the R2, all the creatures. The one who was probably my greatest asset was Alapinas, who was just... Because, you know, George was busy making the movie. He didn't have time to say, you're terrific, or, yeah, I really love you having in this movie. So you just say, action cut, and that was it. Whereas Alec Guinness took the time to say, it was very good, yes, excellent performance. And, you know, of course he died. And the day we met, actually, I've told this story before, but I'm very proud to tell it. We met at the airport getting our charter flight, and there was a bus, and there was a limousine, And so they pointed me at the bus, and I watched this elderly man with his wife, who I assumed was Alec Guinness, getting in. And we happened to be sitting adjacent across the aisle on the plane to Tunisia. And we got talking, I introduced myself, etc. And when we got there was a bus and a limo. Well, I knew where I belonged. And then he went to the limo, and then he walked back, he said, have they given you your per diem yet? Well, I'd never been in it, I didn't know what a per diem was. It's like, then your pocket money, because, well, they seem to have given me rather a lot, and I think you should have some. Well, how can you not love a man like that? And that was the beginning. I didn't take the money, but I treasure the memory. So they were my two favourite. Thank you. Thank you for the question.
And we've got one more question from a young lady who's been waiting patiently in the back there.
And there's a microphone to your left, right there.
What was it like working with George Lucas?
Working with George Lucas, you have to get used to it, because George is I want you to remember that making a movie as big as he makes, there are so many things to think about. Just everything in the world is your responsibility, especially in this case where he's more than the director. He owns the whole thing, and he wants it to be terrific. And this occasionally means that he forgets to say thank you, or well done, or that was terrific, you are the best, I'm going to pay you huge amounts more money because you're so wonderful. He forgets to say this because he is absolutely dedicated to what he's doing. So in many ways, it's slightly, you're doing your job and he's doing his, and without him you wouldn't have the job. So it's better that you let him get on with it. And what is noticeable when you have the recent movies, we have screens probably bigger than this. We show you what the camera's looking at, because the camera is electronic, and you can watch exactly what's happening in front of the lens. And it is amazing, as they say, stand by for a take, that wardrobe will rush in and do that, because they're on camera, they're on the screen. And then hair will come in and do that. And then wardrobe will probably come in because hair's, and then makeup comes in and so on. And one day, I thought it was just me that was getting irritable. And one day George just said, geez, how many more people are getting in this shot? You know, because it's wasting time over and over again. But I think they liked being on camera. So, you know, you see the results. He is adored by millions and millions and millions of people around the world. And, you know, to anybody here who is trying to get a project off the ground, whether it's film industry or not, he is an indication that if you struggle, but don't believe people who say you can't do it. He flogged that script round to every studio in Hollywood, and they kept going, nah, it's rubbish, isn't it? And finally Fox said, we'll give you a little money. And he took it, and 32 years later. So, you know, I'm very proud to be associated with him. He's a very private man. After 32 years, you know, still don't know him, because not many people do. But you see his works. And interestingly, I'm going to talk at a premiere in Los Angeles of the remake of The Hidden Fortress. And it's fascinating because, for those who've not seen the film, it's a Japanese film made in the 50s originally, which has, as the people who lead you through the movie, two little farmers, two little peasants who are always trying to get gold and stuff. They're a little greedy, but they are bashed around by bigger forces than them. And he thought that would be ideal as the people who would tell the story of Star Wars. They would be, ultimately, R2-D2 and C-3PO. So I'm going to talk about making a relationship, why relationships like that matter. But he was the inspiration for that part. So Star Wars has connections across the world. And things like the 501st, the people who dress up, I used to think they were crazy. I mean, why would I need to be paid to dress up in wacky costumes? But the affection they draw out of the audience, I see them today. Everybody associates with them and knows them. And the way Star Wars has spread its tentacles through art and music and so on, I'm very proud to be a part. And without you, the audience, there would have ever only been one film. Do you realise that? Do you realise this is all your fault? Thank you very much for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Anthony Daniels. And don't forget, Anthony is located just outside here if you'd like him to sign anything.